Hello guys, welcome to another YouTube video. As you can see, I'm standing here looking like Dora the Explorer. Like, what do we think about my attire today? Should I just start doing stuff like, where is the yellow sign? Oh wait, shift on the side. Guys, where is the mirror? Can you see mirrors in this room? Where? I cannot see them. They're on the left. Oh yeah, true. Enough now, because it's really annoying me. I'm just gonna take this, I'm gonna get rid of this backpack. And we're gonna concentrate on the actual video today, what we're gonna be doing. So today I thought I'll just break down some core exercises and for those people that are beginners, but also for advanced lifters too, because I thought that I was doing certain exercises right when I wasn't, and I thought that my form was correct on certain exercises when actually it wasn't. So I'm just gonna go over the core staple exercises. Basically, I'm gonna how to kind of tutorial on them, so you don't get injured and you can make the most out of your bunda gains. As well, before we start, as always, you know the drill, like and subscribe. Obviously, if you're new, you wouldn't know the drill because you haven't watched my previous videos. What a shame, you need to go watch them as well since you're here. So like and subscribe if you're new. If you don't, I'm not your mate anymore. So right. I promise guys, I'm not on anything. Absolutely, this is me on a daily basis. Right, enough now. I'm having like a sort of laugh attack today. I don't know what my mood, I just woke up like with a funny mood today, but. This exercise we're going to be looking at is the deadlift, aka RDL, Romanian deadlift, because a lot of people tend to get a bit confused on this, okay? So, it's actually, you could do this at home if you got a broomstick, but I'm at the gym at the moment and I could not really find any broomsticks, so I'm gonna have to use this. So what you want to do, you want to place this behind you and create 3 points of contact. This is to make sure that you're hinging correctly. When you're deadlifting, just let me put this down for a minute so that I can explain to you what deadlift is. It's a hip hinge movement, okay? So while you're bending down and picking up stuff, you'll notice that the majority of the times when you bend down and pick up stuff, you tend to use you start the movement by bending or arching your back, using your arms. This is completely different, okay? Your movement starts normally from your hips by pushing your hips back. And I'm going to show you a few exercises, a few little tricks that you can try to learn the actual movement, okay? So as I was saying, use a broomstick at home. It will be easier. Place this. Again, this is a bit awkward because obviously it's got the 2 extremities, but obviously if you use a broomstick, it'll be better. But what you want to do is create 3 points of contact with the stick that you're using, okay? With your head, with your upper back and mid back, I would say, and lower back, okay? 3 points of contact. We got these, okay? So I want you to start practicing by pushing your hips backwards, okay? And go as low as you can. You'll feel the stretch on your hamstrings and your glutes, okay? And you'll notice that when you start going too low, one of the points of contact will detach, okay? So you see what's happening here? This point of contact is off because it means that I'm going too low, okay? So when you practice the exercise, you want to make sure that the 3 points of contact are always there. The moment one point of contact is off, it means that your form is off as well. So that is a great way to practice with the hip hinge movement. Another little trick that you can use is to place yourself against the wall. And I want you to imagine when you're deadlifting, use your imagination, okay? That's how I usually used to do it when I didn't know how to deadlift properly, to learn how to hip hinge. I want you to imagine that someone is coming from behind. It's like really weird, but it literally really helps you. And he's pinching your butt from behind, okay? So imagine someone is coming from behind and he's pinching you from the butt. He's pulling you, he's pinching you from the butt, okay? I know it sounds weird, but it actually explains the concept of hinging, okay? So one thing that can also help you is placing yourself against the wall, just starting from a straight position and push your hips, your bum, and make it touch the floor, okay? So that's what a hip hinge movement is, okay? So you got the butt there, you got the wall there, push your hips back so that your butt touches the wall, okay? So let's practice again. All the way down, far, 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 far. There you go. I'm touching the butt. I'm touching the butt. I'm touching the wall, okay? Imagining that I've got the bar. There you go. I'm touching the wall with my butt. And that's what the movement is. So it shouldn't be coming from you bending down, okay? Your spine also, remember, it needs to be neutral, aka straight the whole time for you as well. Keep looking down as you descend down. You follow the movement with your eye gaze, okay? So notice as well, again, pay attention to your body, because your body will tell you. If you have a lot of weight and you start doing this, you will notice, you will feel, if you really pay attention, a little pain here, okay? You'll start feeling it. And this is your body. You shouldn't be ignoring these kind of signals, because it's your body telling you, look, you're doing this wrong, okay? So the majority of the times when you're doing an exercise and you're doing it wrong, you'll feel it. You'll feel something uncomfortable. For example, on your knees, on your spine, here, on your cervical spine as well. That's why it's so important to listen, stop immediately and revise your form. But the most important thing and the most important tip I could ever give you, whew, got hair all over my face, I could ever give you is to learn to listen to your body, because that's how you will know that something is wrong, okay? That's the deadlift. Now I'm gonna grab my backpack, be Dora the Explorer for a bit, and we're gonna go downstairs. I'm gonna show you the rest of the exercises. See you soon. So I'm just going to be showing you all the tips and tricks for hip thrust, and hopefully I will teach you something new today. If you're a beginner or intermediate or advanced, I'll literally show you all my tricks. You ready for this? So first, trick number one is to use a plyo box instead of a bench. Just because sometimes that is subjective though. It depends how tall you are, because I'm not that short, I guess. I suppose I'm 5'6", but I find that people from 5'6" and below, they find using plyo boxes better than benches, because benches can be too high sometimes, okay? But the thing that I always recommend is trying them both. Now, I use a 40 inches box, because obviously there's different heights, so you need to make sure that obviously it's a little bit shorter than the bench, otherwise there is no point. Really. So see what I'm going to do here now. I'm going to try them both. I'm going to show you the difference. So with the bench, as you can see here, so that's me being positioned against it, as you can see. In order to, if I had a big weight, it's a slightly higher. Why? Because if I had to do a hip thrust and perform a hip thrust, I actually had to climb on top of it, okay? You see, I had to elevate myself first, climb on top of this, and then possibly hip thrusting, which is fine if I'm doing a body weight hip thrust, if I'm not really lifting that heavy. It's absolutely fine. The whole climbing thing can be very uncomfortable though when you start going heavier, okay? So you see, it's me being placed against the bench, and I had to climb because I'm not tall enough in order to perform a hip thrust, okay? But if I use a plyo box instead, look how much different it is already. Or anything that is, obviously you don't have to use a plyo box, you can use whatever you want, but something that is slightly shorter in comparison to the bench in general, okay? So you see, it's me placing myself against the box. I don't have to climb. That's perfect height for me. I can already elevate myself. You know what I mean? I don't have to do all the climbing. Do you know what I'm talking about here? So it just makes it easier for me when I have a heavier load, because you see me lifting 200 kilos. Obviously, I'm not saying that you have to lift 200 kilos, but it just makes it easier in general. When you use the scoop method, you cannot go too high. You cannot, and that's what people sometimes get it mistaken as, oh, you're not doing full range of motion. Yes, I am doing full range of motion, but this is the scoop method, and you're not meant to go past a certain point. You physically will not be able to if you're using this method. So you'll just notice naturally that you will stop at a natural position when you use a scoop, and that's, for me, that's it. That's full range of motion for me, okay? And then all the way down and back up. Another thing that I wanted to stress the importance of is that obviously this is one method of doing hip thrust. However, there is another method, which is not the Scoopy, the normal regular hip thrust, which a lot of people have taught on social media to be wrong, but it's not wrong, it's just different, okay? I always recommend to try both of them, see which one works more for you. With this one, you don't have to keep looking forward, funny enough. I know, it sounds weird, but it's actually just a different type of hip thrust. So you just literally will look up and come down, okay? So the main difference is basically the looking up or looking forward. I recommend using the scooping method, the first one that I used before, just because it's easier. It's kinder to your spine as well, because when you're doing this, it's also easier for you to just overextend your spine. And this is why you might have those back problems when you do, or back pain when you're doing a hip thrust mainly. Another important thing that I want you to take into consideration when you start, obviously we said you need to practice if you're a total beginner with no weight, but once you feel comfortable adding a barbell, what I always recommend is to use the shortest barbell, Olympic barbell that is in your gym. I always say this just because it's easier to balance, okay, on you. Because the longer the bar is, first of all, obviously the heavier it's gonna be, but also it's gonna be harder for you to balance it on your body. A lot of people, well, mainly beginners, tend to make in terms of like this little mistake. Just tilt this so you can see me. They will tend to use small little plates, okay? However, look what's happening here when I use small little plates. I'm gonna have to physically grab the bar and place it on top of me. But this is a 10-kilo plate, okay? And if I grab a bigger plate, okay, usually gyms tend to have different ones. So see, these are the same weight, 10 kilos and 10 kilos, and although this can look a little bit scarier to you, it actually might be so much better because it will allow you to roll the bar rather than having to grab it and lift it. See what I mean? If I've got this on, obviously I haven't got the other one, but I wouldn't be able to really roll it on top of me, you know what I mean, because it's too short. However, if I use a big plate, what the difference is so the bar is elevated already for me, so all I have to do really to lift this is to roll it on top of me. See how easy it is? I don't have to pick it up and lift it on top of me, if it makes sense. It just makes it so much easier. The exercise we're going to be looking at is the squat, okay? And although this is something that well, people might know a lot about already, it can be also quite difficult for some people as well. There are a lot of things that you need to take into consideration. First thing, where you're putting the bar. Things like whether you're placing the bar on top of your traps or at the bottom of your traps. It's called either a high bar or a low bar, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. But first I wanted to talk about the stance, okay? Let me just point these on my feet so that you can see that more. Okay, so I want you to have a look at the stance, okay? Because some people tend to feel the squats uncomfortable. Again, it's important that you practice first with no weight or with just the bar, even if you just use the bar only on its own, so you get used to the movement, okay? Some people, for example, are not able to squat in the same position as I can, believe it or not. That's why it's so important that you try different ones, okay? So the first stance is the standard one, shoulder width apart. Just literally just try it, see how it feels, okay? You do a couple of squats doing this, okay? See how it feels. Then I want you to try a slightly wider stance, okay? So your feet will be just slightly wider, okay? The main thing to keep into consideration when you're squatting is that your knees should never cave in, okay? So cave in means they're going inward. Your knees should always stay out, okay? Your core should be engaged throughout the whole movement, okay? For example, this is my optimal stance. This is what works for me. There is also a different one, which is where same thing, wide stance, but you will really rotate your feet outward, okay? So your feet are literally pointing really out, okay? You'll notice they will also target your inner thighs a little bit more. But for example, this is what works for more people, okay? So I want you to really practice with your foot stance. Start from a narrow stance, slightly wider, and then with your feet pointing outward, see what works for you, okay? Because some people might not agree with me. For example, I really like the wide stance with my feet not really rotated, just literally just facing forward. That's what really feels good for me. I can really feel it on my glutes that way. But some people might try it. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, it's just that their genetics is different, okay? So, another thing that I want you to consider, there are actually 2 types of squats that you can do. Obviously, no, actually there's so many different variations of your squats. Okay, let's talk about the bar placement. So, because you're going to think, where do I place my bar? So, obviously you do this at a squat rack. I'm just doing it here because that is so busy at the moment. So, you could either place the bar just above your traps, so that is called a high bar squat, or really place it down, okay, at the bottom of your traps, okay? So there is no right or wrong when it comes to bar positioning. Again, this is something that is down to you and what feels better to you. For me, for me, what works best for me, just placing it on top. It just feels much more natural for me. But some people might prefer placing it down. Now, the main difference that you need to take into account, whether when you're placing the bar higher or lower, so when you're placing it higher, you need to strive at keeping your chest slightly up, okay? And it's slightly more knee dominant as well, okay? So if you're someone that struggles with knee problems, for example, I'd actually recommend using a low bar stance, okay? When you put it here, the load is just much higher as well. It'll target your knees a little bit more. So just go down and up, down and up, and that is my favorite, okay? So it's a little bit more knee and slightly more quad dominant. If you want to do completely glutes, place the bar really low, okay? Top of your, at the bottom of your traps, okay? And that will be a little bit more lower back dominant. So if you're someone that struggles with lower back problems, I'd recommend trying the high bar instead, okay? So, same thing, just go down and up. But ultimately, if you're someone, you try them both, for example, right? And you still think, Chiara, this exercise, squats are really not my thing. I really don't like them. I try them with no weight, practicing my form, practicing my stance, but I just really, really don't like them. Honey, you don't have to do them, okay? If one exercise, for example, I'm just gonna be completely honest with you, and you're gonna think that I'm absolutely crazy, but I really don't like deadlifts. Like, I don't deadlift. They're a great exercise, and that's why I show it to people, because some people actually like deadlifts and they're really good for them. But in terms of my preference, my personal preference, it doesn't mean that they're bad, it's just my own personal preference. I really don't like deadlifts. So I don't do them. And the same thing for you. If there is not one exercise that you really despise, or you don't really like particularly, you don't have to do it. There's so many different glute exercises that you can do, that you can focus on. A great alternative for your squats could be split squats instead that you could do. Great exercise, great variation for your squats could be Bulgarian split squats. Now, before I start explaining how to do this, there's a love-hate relationship with Bulgarian split squats. They're hard, okay? So that's why if you've never done them before, you have to like start with this mindset. Obviously it's not negative mindset, but obviously they're harder because any unilateral movement that you perform will be harder than a bilateral one. Same thing with hip thrust. So you could be doing, for example, bilateral hip thrust, but try single leg hip thrust. You'll feel harder. You'll immediately feel harder. So that's a great way if you feel like you want to challenge yourself a little bit more. Try single leg variations
of exercises, and you'll notice how much more they hurt. People that I see doing, they usually struggle with finding the right position. What they do, they'll place the foot on top of the box and they'll jump around, okay, to find the right stance, and that can be sometimes can throw you off balance, especially if you're holding weight, okay? So one little tip that I'm going to give you is to actually place the foot on top of the surface that you're using, descending down and then moving the foot. If you want to target your glutes more, you want to take a bigger stride, okay, and lean more forward, whereas if you want to target your quads more, the stride should be shorter and you keep an upright position like so, okay? Like that, I'm targeting my quads. But if I want to target my glutes, bigger stride, so a little bit forward, okay, and leaning forward as well, like so, okay? Yeah? So that's how I'm targeting my glutes more. So, again, this is an exercise, especially if you're a beginner and especially if you haven't done it. It'll take a while for you to get used to it, to the balance and everything. But a little tip for you, if you want to practice it and you struggle with balance, because I'm someone that actually struggles with balance quite a lot, by any means, hold on to a wall, hold on to a bar, anything that you've got, it will help you. You could hold the dumbbell with one hand and just practice this way. I'm someone that struggles with balance, and if something feels a little bit harder, there are always ways to make things easier, and I hope that my videos can help you in some way. And if you need any help at all, I offer so much help in terms of my online coaching. My online coaching clients speak to me on a daily basis. They say, oh, I'm not really sure on the form. Can I record the video and send it to you? Absolutely. This is how you learn. I want you to focus on learning the form, and I want to provide as much help as possible. So I'll put the link down in the description below if you wanted to try my online coaching. Because again, everything is personalized to you, and I'm there with you every single step of the journey to help you. If you've got any questions along the way, you get to speak to me on my app all the time. You get an updated personalized plan, both meal plan and workout plan for you. And you could also come to me and say, Kiara, in this plan I actually don't really like squats, and I can also adjust it for you. It's basically very one-to-one. So again, link in the description below if you want to make some serious changes. But then, that being said, I'm going to move on to the last exercise that a lot of people tend to get wrong. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, go. So actually, I'm a bit guilty of making this mistake because I thought I was doing it right, and then I read an article on this because it's all about learning, do you know what I mean? It's all about reading and trying to get better every day. And I just actually found out that I was doing it wrong the whole time. And it makes sense, to be fair. So you see it a lot on social media, a lot of people performing, doing an abduction and using the abduction machine. What they tend to do is they tend to lean forward quite a lot to target their glutes. However, what you're doing and what people don't tend to notice is when they do this, they'll tend to put their spine in an unnatural position because your spine will not be straight anymore. So it's actually for every single exercise that we said, it's important to keep your spine neutral. And actually I wasn't thinking that by doing this, obviously the spine wouldn't be neutral anymore. So same thing applies for this exercise as well. We need to make sure we keep our spine neutral, therefore upright position, not leaning forward too much, and performing the exercise. But yeah, I think I kind of explained the most important exercises here. I hope you enjoyed this video and you found it useful. As always, make sure you like and subscribe, and let me know what other if you've got any other content requests or anything that you want me that I talk about a little bit more, anything that you struggle with. Just make sure you leave your options, leave your options. Make sure you let me know in the comments down below, because obviously I want to help you as much as possible. So if you struggle with something in particular, let me know. It could be anything, nutrition related, training related, anything really. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time with another video.